Welcome to this ZYTO video. I'm Josh Davis, this is Tracy Waterland, and today we're going to focus in on the Select software and show you some of the benefits and how easy it is to run. Okay, so I'm going to start with a test client here. I'm going to open up a new session, and when you go into the Select, the nice thing about it is everything is streamlined, very simple to use, and we run through what's called biosurveys. Think of those as preset protocols.
What I like about the biosurveys is it's something that you don't have to really think about. You can click on it, have them put their hand on the hand cradle, and move through the biosurvey. And the biosurvey will guide you through that. And that automation makes it very easy to get started. You're looking at maybe 4 or 5 hours of training with the coaches on the Select. So it makes it very easy that way. The biosurveys that we're using, we've had these biosurveys in there for quite a few years, and the ones that we have there that are the all new biosurveys are our updated versions.
Yes, so you have our new biosurveys. You can also select down. We've got our legacy, which are some of our older ones, but we're going to focus in on the new biosurveys. So the first biosurvey I'm really going to focus on today is the foods. So this is the foods for wellness. I'm going to start towards the bottom. We'll kind of work our way up. Sure. So when I click on the food scan, the nice thing about this is it's just really simple as far as we go through about 450 different foods. Okay. And you can focus in on specific diets. This will be, if your client is on a specific diet, you might want to come over and say, look, I know that they are vegetarian. So I'm going to eliminate any type of foods that maybe a vegetarian wouldn't eat on a daily basis.
So with my wife as an example, when we run the food biosurvey, she has allergies to nuts. And those come up as a histamine response. In our system, we're not actually scanning to find out what kind of a histamine response she's getting. We're just finding out what the foods do from a more applied kinesiology or muscle test standpoint. We're just seeing, did they respond in a weakened or strengthened state? And so she has those allergies. We would go ahead and click on the hard nut or nut allergy area, and that would omit any nuts coming up in her scan, because it makes it very difficult for the practitioner to describe or explain why that came up in their scan. So this just eliminates that.
Correct. So today I'm going to skip this. So I want to go through all of the foods. So if you're not going to focus in on a specific diet per se, then you leave these blank. We're going to click next, and it will automatically start going through those. So your client would put hand on the hand cradle. Again, anytime you see this screen where it has this little skeleton or a movie's playing, most of the time you got to put your hand on the hand cradle. Another thing that this biosurvey will go through is what we call a breakpoint, and this breakpoint will quickly show you how the skin conductivity responded to this type of information. So you've got water contaminants, pesticides, endocrine disruptors. So if you wanted to focus in on one of those, you would go ahead and select that at the time. Again, I'm just going to keep this blank. We're going to move forward, and then it will pull up the report for the foods. With the foods, the one thing that this new Foods for Wellness program goes through is it will focus in on the positive foods first. So we want the client's kind of perception to go, oh, this is what the skin conductivity had a good response for. That way it's not just a negative, oh, why would my body respond that way?
We're actually looking for foods that the person can focus in on for the next 30 days. There is on another part of the report up here in the left-hand corner that you can select, and as you go down, you can find foods that had negative responses. So you could take a look at that and say, well, here are the foods that I want you to focus on. Here are a few that we want you to stay away from for the next 30 days. So once again, for my wife's example, we found that the responses came up very negative for gluten. And so we struck that from her diet, and within 30, 60, 90 days, she found that problems that were coming up, soreness in the shoulder for her, some inflammation symptoms went away. And I ended up not having to buy a new bed, so it was awesome.
So I went ahead and selected the negative foods here. This is what the report would look like for the negatives. You'll notice there's just a negative mark next to each one of those, from the highest priority all the way down closest to 0. So very easy to read. Everything is focused in on a specific food group. So here's the beverages. As I scroll down, you got the dairy, eggs, fats and oils. And so as you scroll down, you'll see each one of those food groups. So as far as the Foods for Wellness scan, super simple, great information, and gets you in the direction you want to go with foods per se.
So just to further emphasize that the food scan is not a scan for allergies. It's not looking for a histamine response. There are other tests that you can run for that, but the ZYTO system is looking for that galvanic skin response. So it's either going to give it a strong positive, biologically preferred response, or it's going to give a negative response or something that weakens the system. So it's just like AK.
So as you can see, we're back on the main screen here. We focused in on the food scan. Now we're going to move up. The next option is the basic scan. With the basic scan, you've got some different types. Virtually it's all the same, but just slight variations depending on what you're trying to accomplish. The most used one is, I would say, these top two. This basic scan is going to go and focus in on the categories that you've pre-selected and your inventory. And then the next one down is if you don't have those set up, then you can easily just go in, choose the product company that you would want to focus on. And then at the same time, it goes through what we call product rank and dosage. So you can get the galvanic skin response when it comes to a dose.
Once again, on the product companies, some practitioners may be just using one product company, and that's just fine, and they can select that and run that. But you also might have 7 different product companies. One might be more nutraceutical or homeopathic, one that might be flower essences, and you want to choose a little bit of each of those to run, and you can choose those manually with that basic scan.
Perfect. So now I'm going to come back in and focus in on this basic scan with product rank and dosage. This is going to be very similar to what we run on the Balance 5.0. So the nice thing about this, though, is instead of our basic Balance software that focuses on one nutritional product line, this in the Select now opens it up where you can use multiple product lines. That's one of the biggest benefits of moving up to a Select software. Okay, so it's scanning right now. This is looking at the vertebrae, teeth, meridians, organs, glands, and systems. And you can see this comes to a break point. The break point's going to quickly have you just look at the information, see what patterns that you might see. Anything that I hover over, for instance, tooth number 17, it will give you all of the correlations. So you've got the emotions that correlate to that tooth, the different organs, glands, and systems. You've got the meridians that correlate to it.
It gives you the ability to have a 360-degree view, a more holistic view of the person and the relationships between their functions and their organs and glands. And that's what I like about it, is always, like you said, looking for the patterns, the trends, what do I see here? And always asking the question, what am I looking at? What am I looking for? And you'll start to see as you view these reports more and more, and as you run the scans more and more, your eyes become very adept to being able to see what you need to see.
Great information here. Most of the time you're just going to move forward. For instance, though, if there is an item on there that you just don't want to explain to a patient or a client, you can uncheck it and it will not move forward with that information. Just as a quick little side note. I'm going to go ahead and click Next. The next portion is now I can go in and choose the nutritional product companies that I associate and I use in my clinic. So these are the ones that I have pre-selected under my categories. So if you've set up your custom category list that we went over in our prior video, then you can, for instance, choose like my digestion one. If not, then you can come down and choose the product line that you would want to use. So just for fun today, I'm going to go ahead and choose maybe biotics research and maybe Young Living. So you got 2 different types of products, 2 different types of product lines. So it's really robust in that way. Go ahead and click Next. It will automatically go through that entire product line. So it's not going to go through just bits and pieces unless you've set it up that way. Another nice thing about the Select is I can go through generics. So in this case, I have just generics, vitamins and minerals, amino acids. So if you don't want to associate with a specific product company, you can just run the generics. I'm going to skip that. I'm also going to skip this. This is where you would go in and choose a different product line if you haven't already set it up.
Or even just parts of that product line too.
Correct. Or if you've got to a point where maybe you didn't select it in your preset categories, it's kind of that last moment of, oh shoot, I forgot to select maybe standard process. Go in, choose standard process, and move forward. This is one of the beauties of the basic software or this basic scan compared to our balance, is the balance will automatically just take those top 8 to 10 products and put them in on the report. With a select, I get to see those before I move forward. So as you can see on this top screen, you can see a Biotics product came up as the highest preferred, then another Biotics, and then a Young Living, and so on and so forth. The software will choose the top 10. But before moving forward, I can come in and say, do you know what, maybe I don't have this one in stock, or I don't want to order it. So I can uncheck it, and I can scroll down and say, you know what, as the healthcare provider, I'm going to come down and I'm going to choose maybe this Amino Sport. So you have the final say of what product moves forward and ends up on the report. I'll go ahead and click next. I can come in and get the dosing, so I can set those parameters on dosing. So I got the information from the scan, so here's the report on the basic scan.
One of the things that I like about the coaching aspect is that you're going to have this one-on-one coaching. They're going to be going through your software. You're going to be linked together on your computer so they can see your screen. And they're going to go through step by step of the report, some of the languaging that's about the report, and how to present it and understand it. And so the coaching is, I think, a very critical aspect of really putting that model together and feeling comfortable with your patients and clients.
Correct. So on the basic scan, you can see just a quick overview, 162 biomarkers that we went through. There was 75 that came up that we call out of range. I like to call it my priority. So now I can see I've got 75 items that are now the priority that we want to bring back into range. The range, like we've said in the past, is this little circle. We want to bring those back in, turn those dots green.
So the first thing that's going to come up after we see that part of the report is what product that you biologically preferred. So this is the 7 Ketozyme. That was the most preferred product. And it brought 47 of those biomarkers, 47 of those stimulus that we sent to the person's biofield, got a response, and now it's bringing those in. Now, if it's 8, 9, or 10, I'm impressed. 47, that's a huge impact with a very high priority product, and so you know that that's very critical for that patient. The other thing that I like to look about with the products too is ask the question, well, what does this product do for the person? It gives me insights as to maybe why biologically I had a preference for it, and it might trigger something, an answer where you go, oh my goodness, I didn't even think about that with this person, and that makes perfect sense as to why they need that product. Sometimes the products, though, man gives them this name, 7 Ketozyme, but the elements of the products is what the person's biology might prefer most. And so you have to take that into account as well as we're looking at that.
You can see here, the nice thing about the select is now you can see we've mixed multiple product lines together, and it will put them in order based on how the skin responded from each line. So you see 2 Biotics products, then 2, 3 Young Living, another Young Living to close it out. So you can start getting that great information that is specific to the individual that you're running, and you're really not limited on the amount of products that you want to use. You've got the description, same thing that it goes through on our basic balance, the description of the products in the same order. So we'll scroll down through there. Then now we're getting more into the clinical information. So you've got the services. So if you've set up your services, the select will show you what services they had a preferred response to.
And just to repeat on that, the services are very important because it helps to cross-pollinate your office. So if you're doing, some type of a foot therapy and you're looking at nutritional products here and you go, oh, that, foot zoning came up for you and that was highest priority and we offer that in our office, let's go ahead and have a consultation about the foot zoning for you. Also, if you refer out to other people, once again, you can now have a referral base in your community and hopefully they would do the same back for you as well.
So with the select, it's going to go through the organ biomarkers. This is going to go into a lot more in-depth information than our basic balance. You can see right off the top, This has got eyes on there. I know it's got lymphatics, bones, joint tissue, veins. So a lot more detailed information that you get in a select versus the balance. You got the vertebrae. This is just a simple bar chart from highest priority down. The teeth. This is one of my favorite things within a select, actually. On the teeth, I could come over here and quickly say, okay, tooth number 5, it's showing up as some type of a stress response. I can click on this vectoring tool, come over here and click on tooth number 5, and now see those correlations. So you can see that that correlates to the large intestine, the lung, these vertebrae, and then large intestine and lung meridian lines.
It's one of my favorite screens, being able to come into the vectors. Once again, being able to see that holistic view and looking for the correlations. It's fun seeing the practitioners' faces when they see this, and they're like, oh my goodness, I get that. I can now see. Because so many people are going more and more towards that understanding of functional medicine, and it's a beautiful.
And not only that, for the client. I mean, when you're sitting down and your client gets to see this, if you choose to show this screen to a client, it gives them a better understanding of, you're not trying to focus in on one specific item, you're trying to see holistically, where do you need to go and look at overall wellness.
Or the patient going, I never told you about that. And it's showing up here, and they're like, yeah, I didn't even tell you about that. How could that show up? This is amazing. So their confidence goes up really high. Their buy-in is very high, and their compliance with the model that you're setting up with them is adhered to. I like that part. And sometimes even a client might forget or didn't understand that, now that you're talking about it, yeah, I do have some fungus under my big toenail, and I didn't know how that related. I didn't even know that was a problem, So it continues to bring up information so you can make proper choices and directions for the client.
Brings up better awareness. Yeah. So you've got the TCM points there, so if you want to look at the meridian lines, the EAV points, if you're familiar with those, and it gives you information on each EAV point that comes up. You've got emotional biomarkers, so you can come over here, and if you want to focus in on what emotions might play into this overall situation, you can see that anxiety, blame, ashamed, those were some of the top priorities there.
What I like about the emotions is that you can also correlate those to organs. And so if the liver's showing up above, and you get down here and you see that anger is one of the top emotions, then there's a correlation between that. And now that you need to do something to assist with their processing of anger. And it might be subconscious or conscious or even transgenerational. But it gives great insight. The patients really enjoy this part. And sometimes they're like, no, I'm not that way. But you start talking to them and their awareness comes up.
Another thing that I love, this is a great tool where if you also have our Evox software, say you had our select that we're going through here, and you see anxiety. Well, now I can immediately use that as the topic to talk about in an Evox. So right then and there, simple way to transition into another software and really get to a core priority that you need to focus in on an Evox session. So you've got the emotions. As we scroll down, you got neurotransmitters you can focus in on. You have...
The biomarker progress chart is one of my favorites. When I first looked at it, I'm like, what are all these numbers? But what's really nice is the way it's laid out. On the left-hand side here, you have all of the biomarkers that were scanned, and you can see their responses in the first column just to the right of those. In the next column, you can see the product. And in that column, where all the numbers are still in that column, that didn't bring those areas into range, those biomarkers into range. But if we scroll down, in column number 2, when we see that there's no number here at gallbladder 43 or GB43B, there's no number there, and that means that that product brought that biomarker...
Everything from there down came into
range. And so it's really important, because sometimes I might go, well, gee, that one product brought everything into range that I needed, and so therefore I'm just going to use that one product. But then you can go to the third column and find out, well, what did that product bring into range specifically? And so now you can pick and choose the priorities of products that you're going to use. The number 1 product and the number 2 and number 3 in that order is always going to be most important, but this gives you great information specifically as to what those products brought into order from a biomarker standpoint.
It also brings in from the informational side of parathyroid gland that, yeah, there was a little bit of a higher response in the beginning, but it also took the most amount of products to finally get that back into a normal range. And so it brings up the question, why was that area so stubborn?
Right.
You know, why did it take so much information? So, great information on the basic scan. Now we're going to move up. I'm going to close out of this. Let's go into a new one. So when we say the variations of the basic scan, you also have that same thing that we just ran, but it's going to focus in on just the balancers only, so more of just the nutritional side. It's not going to put it up against a bunch of stressors. And then vice versa, you can run just the stressors, not focus in on any type of products or nutritionals.
Right. One of the reasons for that is that some practitioners like just to run stressors and they just want to see how the body responded, and then they're going to use some of their own solutions or their own products to balance them out without having to go into the system. So it gives them that freedom and flexibility as a practitioner. And I can do that same with the balancers. If I don't care about the stressors, I just want to find out what product that Josh needs, I can have him put his hand on the hand cradle, boom, and you're done. So it gives you some good types and variations in that.
So now we're going to move to the top here, and I'm going to look at the advanced scan with output. This is where we're going to go into a lot more detail. So this is where you're going to dig, find out more of maybe what a root cause might be going on. So this one, you're going to spend probably a good 25, maybe 30 minutes with a client. Everything's pre-selected that's most common. You can come in here and uncheck something if you don't want to use it. I'm going to go ahead and move forward with the ones that are blue. It will go through those areas. So the same as the basic scan that we just went through, good information to scroll, see if there's something that you want to uncheck. Pay attention to the priorities and the common theme that you see. I'm going to go ahead and move forward. And now this is another area of the select that is just people love. This is going to get into what we call the secondary categories. So this is going to go through chemicals, heavy metals, viruses, mycotoxins,
bacteria, molds, fungi. I mean,
a lot more information here. So you can see this is how the skin responded from highest priority down. Anything in red was outside of range. Anything that was green was within the range. And the nice thing here is most of the time you're going to focus with some of the things towards the top because there was some reason that the skin responded that way and you got that type of a response. But the nice thing here is I can come down and say, you know what, I really don't care what ZYTO is showing up here. As a practitioner, I want to look at maybe herbicides. I can check that and it will add that to the next portion and dig deeper into, okay, maybe what herbicides.
Now, one of the other things that's real important on this particular screen is that if you choose too many, it's going to lengthen the scan out time-wise. And so we always caution on this one. Just go ahead and take your cursor over the top name there, and you'll see that it tells you how many sub-items are in the category. Keep it under 1,000 sub-items total. So each one's going to have a number of different sub-items.
So 64.
Yeah.
You know, chemicals got another 201. These other allergens, 45, and then the herbicides, 76.
And that puts you well under 1,000, so this would be very nice to run that. But when you get up over 1,000, our system speed is 2 items per second. So whether it be sending out a signal that represents a biomarker or sending out a signal that represents a particular product, it's 2 items per second. So do the math.
Correct. I'm going to go ahead and click Next. It will now dig deeper into each one of those subcategories. Again, anytime you see that skeleton, patient has their hand on. When that disappears, you can take your hand off, relax. Now it's going to tell me in order of priority, everything that I just selected on the screen before, this is now how the skin conductivity responded to each one. So you've got this top item here, the second item, and anytime you're not sure something, you can hover over it. It'll give you a deeper definition and information on each item.
Or Google.
Or Google, correct. I'm going to go ahead and click Next. Now we're going to balance those out. So the same thing that we that same format that we went through in the basic scan, now we're going to come through, I'll choose my, maybe some of the categories that I pre-selected, those custom categories. We'll choose biotics again, and maybe Des Bio, Metagenic. So now we can choose some multiple product lines.
Once again, you want to err on choosing as few as you can, because the more product lines you choose, the longer the scan's going to be.
It brings up the generics again. So if you just want to run generic vitamins and minerals, things that you don't want to associate with a specific product company, you can do that. So out of those, over 900 products, you can see what's the priority. So you got Des Bio. These little names, this abbreviation, so this DB, that is the product company. So you can quickly just view and associate there. BR, Biotics Research, Metagenics. So after that hyphen is now when you can see the actual product. Again, automatically it will choose the top 10. You can come down and choose any more that you might want to add to the overall analysis here. We'll click next. You can come in and do your dosing, so you can get the skin conductivity on the dose. So you do have the ability to output if you would like. This comes to the scan area where you can choose any item that you would like to output if you choose to do that. If you don't, uncheck them. Go ahead and move forward. Same thing, here's a potency and output on any of those stressors that came up. So if you're familiar with homeopathy, that gives you some information to move forward with there. I'm going to go ahead and uncheck those. Move forward. And then same thing on any of the primary stressors. If you choose to output, you can do that. This will then say, okay, we're going to get ready for the output. If you are not familiar with that, then you can work with one of our coaches. They'll go through how to do that, the benefits of it. But the nice thing is the select gives you that information and the ability to do so. Now we're getting to the report. So the report's just going to go through a lot more detail. With this one, we went through, the chemicals. We went through those secondary stressors. So that's going to be on the report. You can see right off the bat, 352 biomarkers. And out of those, 278 had some type of a biological stress response.
And so you're going to see in the report that this is going to be very similar format as we went through earlier with the basic scan. And they'll go through the products, they'll go through what the products did to bring the biomarkers into range, they'll go through the descriptions of the products. From there it goes into...
From there it goes more into the clinical side like we did before, but you're just going to go into a lot more detail based on the categories that you chose. So once we get down to that screen here, it will tell you, here's the primary stressors that you chose in the beginning. So we've got the organs, glands, and systems, vertebrae, teeth, meridians, emotions. Then you got the secondary, so all of the other allergens, the chemicals, ingredients derived from GMOs and herbicides. And then as we scroll down, put all of that information into a prioritized list. So super informative, and you can really dig to a different level that you just can't do in our basic software. Right. But it keeps it very streamlined, easy to use, and really anyone in the clinic can run this, and it's just a matter of you as the practitioner viewing the report and deciding what you want to do from there. Right. So that wraps up the information on the Select software. Hopefully that gives you a better understanding, if this is the software that you were looking at, a better understanding of how simple and easy it is to run. If you want some more information that compares this software to our other software, go check out the Balance video that we've done, check out the Elite video that we've done, and if you want to couple this with an EVOX, also check out the EVOX video. Good information here. If you have any other questions, call your sales representative and they can help you out, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you.